This is the Headbangers Almanac. Welcome to the Headbangers Almanac. My name is Will. I fell ass backwards into a heavy metal podcast, and I'm not really prepared for it. So to fix that, I'm basically going back through heavy metal history, re-experiencing every album ever released ever. So without further ado, let's delve into the metal archives. Today we are specifically talking about 1970, and you can see the little picture over there. We're talking about Deep Purple's In Rock. And prior to getting into this album, I do want to go through kind of the history of Deep Purple. We mentioned it in the last episode, but I want to go through like the speed in which this happened is unreal. Like 3 albums and a single within 2 years, and then a whole change of the band and another album out the year after, which is crazy. So in March of 1968, they finalized the band. Basically, the band started out with this drummer who wanted to make a band centered around him, and they pick up Ritchie Blackmore and John Lord to kind of fill that out. That drummer loses focus at some point, or just decides he's not going to be in the band as much. But the 2 investors that he talked into it are still very much interested in creating a band. So they grab Rod Evans, they grab Ian Pace on drums, and then they grab Nick Simper on bass, right? 4 months later, they record and release Shades of Deep Purple, their first album. This is the one that has Hush, it has Mandrake Root, it has this crazy cover of I'm So Glad, and the intro piece that they wrote for that is just, it's phenomenal stuff. It's psychedelic rock, so might not be up your alley, but for what it is, it's really good. So just come out of the gate swinging like that. Less than 3 months later, we get another album from them called The Book of Talisman, and I'm not the biggest fan of that album. I think their stronger album is the first one, but you can start to see like a loss of direction or lack of direction, where they just kind of sound like every other psychedelic rock band out there, you know, very Doorsy almost. And I'd hate to say that, but just nothing really setting them apart from anything else, right? Now it's at this point in May of 1969, Ritchie Blackmore, John Lord, and Ian Pace decide to sack Rod Evans and Nick Simper to pursue a heavier sound, right? So it's weird. It's weird to me because I put a lot of stock in a vocalist of a band, and so when it is not the vocalist that's kind of running the show there, and this is the second band that does that, right? We know of Black Sabbath, where Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler are basically the creative force behind Black Sabbath. It is very much the same thing for Deep Purple, where the lead singer is not in the loop, and they're working along their replacements for a little bit, actually. So I just found it very funny that now here I am like, oh god, band's nothing without their lead singer. Here's 2 bands that literally, fuck that, we're gonna put out our own, you know, and make this really a thing. So in June of 1969, we get our UK release of their 3rd album, self-titled Deep Purple. And on June 4th, the gang is scouting Ian Gillan at an episode 6 show. So that's what I'm saying. Like, they're literally looking for replacements while the band is still very much active, which I think is hilarious. July 4th, Mark 1, the original lineup of the band plays their last show. And July 10th, we now have our new lineup. And then US finally gets that self-titled album that they've already been listening to over in the UK. So now we have this band that's playing this album, you know, that they didn't even have a hand in. Well, at least two-fifths of them have not had a hand in. So I thought it was pretty funny. June 3rd of 1970, we finally get Deep Purple in rock. And this is 7 tracks, 42 minutes, 50-second song. It is the first song, Speed King, comes out of the gate swinging almost as hard and fast as the band itself. It's crazy how hard this hits, and this is a norm. This is something that literally happens every album after this. I can tell because I'm a little bit ahead of the curve here. I'm like more in like 1973 by this time, but I'm telling you, going back to 1970, I listened to a Deep Purple album. They just come out swinging with Speed King. Really good song. We follow that up with Child in Time, which is 10 minutes long. A little too long for my taste, to be honest, but there are it starts off with Bombay Calling by this band. It's a Beautiful Day. John Lord kind of like rearranges the intro, plays it on the organ. Ian Gillan is not familiar with the song, but they go ahead and write a song around that tune. So very interesting to note that copyright is not as strong as it is today. So you can get away with 5, 6, 7, 8 songs all sounding alike from different bands. Today, that's not going to fly. So this is a very good example of that. But don't worry, It's a Beautiful Day goes ahead and they take a song from Deep Purple and basically rearrange it and make their own song as well. So bands are definitely borrowing from each other a lot back in the day. The other thing to note is the haunting vocalization, something that Gillen will admit can't hit on a regular basis and probably doesn't even try at this point. It is crazy the sounds coming out of this dude's mouth in that rare instance where it got caught on tape, and just very difficult to replicate it. Crazy stuff. And my personal favorite on the album is Into the Fire. It talks about getting wrapped up in drugs, and not that I was, but it definitely hits very close to home. And it's a great song, just warning somebody, don't get caught up in that life. It's gonna pretty much mess you up, and something like that where in the 70s that's what they're doing, you know what I mean? They're doing it's very, that's the norm. A lot of people get caught up in that lifestyle, and so for a big band like Deep Purple sitting there saying, look, that's not the way to do this, you're messing up your life, if you continue down this path. I think it's a great message for sure. Just kind of spits in the face of that lifestyle, which is awesome. I'm hesitant to give this a 5-star. Not hesitant. I wouldn't normally give this a 5-star. I wanted to hold on to 5-star albums because I think they are going to be rare. All I have to do is hate one song and then you're not a 5-star album. It's very hard not to put a 5-star rating on this album. I started out where Child in Time is just a song that I love it, but I'll skip it, 9 times out of 10 unless I'm in the mood to listen to it. Near the end of the album, when we get to Hard Loving Man, that's another one where I could probably give or take. But on a great day where you're just kind of listening to some Deep Purple, honestly, this album hits hard from beginning to end. It's all killer, no filler. I think that's the phrase, and I would have to give this album 5 stars. This is probably a very rare occurrence where it's so deserving of it. What it is, the ridiculous change in direction from what they were not a year ago. And just like I said, the flow of songs from beginning to end is just, it's so great. It's so classic Deep Purple, and I love it even more just because I started out listening to Deep Purple on classic radio, and I would hear overplayed songs like Smoke and Water and stuff like that. So to go back to 1970 and actually hear, stuff from before then and enjoy it so much and realize, wow, we missed out on a lot if you're only going by what you radio, because this is way better. So 5 stars, man. Seriously, I don't know how to close out these videos, but have fun. Please go listen to Deep Purple in rock. Come back. I don't know what the release schedule is going to be. I'm going to start getting off of overtime, which would definitely free up some time throughout the week. I want to try to put out 1 to 2 videos on a weekend, and then maybe a video or 2 during the week as well. But a minimum of 3 videos is coming out per week until we get off overtime, and then maybe I can start making it more frequent. So check out the album, check out the podcast below. I have no idea where Stephen Cline comes up, but he's the one who does our intro, and he did it for the podcast, and I thought it was only fitting to bring it over to the show, to the YouTube show as well. But great intro work from Stephen Cline. So if you know who Stephen Cline is, give them shout outs and props because it's a great little intro piece. And please come back. Seriously, we have tons of albums that we need to talk about, especially in 1970 and moving on. So plan to hit everyone, and be patient with us. Seriously, this should grow into a halfway decent show, if not a good way to just kind of reflect back and on these albums in history. So again, have fun.